theirs is the only religion.
That's not true.
Well, we are the only, Islam too, though, are both evangelical religions. The rest of them aren't really evangelical.
Oh, sorry.
You're born then. You know, you're born. If your father's a Baptist, you're born a Baptist. But if you're a Buddhist, okay, your family's gonna push you towards Buddhism. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
You know, there's an interesting thing. There's an interesting thing to say about that. Is that why is where you're born make you so much more special than people that are born someplace else and come to where you live?
That's a good question.
That means that's the whole premise of a lot of the premise of the Old Testament is being hospitable to the strangers. Anyway.
And you have to point out in the Old Testament, God doesn't punish the person that's different.
No.
He does. He takes them their land, but he doesn't punish them.
Okay. So, welcome to Faith Family Bible study. As you can hear, we've already started discussions. But today we're going to be in Luke chapter 20. And we're going to be talking about the question of Jesus' authority, the question about the Son of David, who is the Son of David, how Jesus gives a bad review for the scribes and the teachers of the law, denounces the scribes. And we're going to try to get through the whole chapter, so we're going to do all of these if we can. So let's get started. Oh, that's not what I want. Let's get to that. There we go. Okay. So the authority of Jesus' question. One day he was teaching the people in the temple and telling of the good news. The chief priests and the scribes came with the elders and said to him, "Tell us, by whose authority are you doing these things? Who is it who gave you this authority?" He answered them, "I will ask you a question, and you tell me. Did the baptism of John come from heaven, or was it a human origin?" They discussed it with one another, saying, "If we say from heaven, he will say, 'Why didn't you believe him?' But if we say of human origin, all the people will stone us, for they are convinced that John was a prophet." So they answered that they did not know where it came from. Then Jesus said to them, "Neither will I tell you by whose authority or by what authority I am doing these things." Wow. So one of the first things that jumped out at me was this part right here that says Jesus was teaching the people. Where was he teaching the people?
The temple.
In the temple. What happened just a chapter ago?
He was kicking everybody off.
He was cleansing the temple, right? Mm-hmm. And what did they say when he was done and he started teaching? These same people were looking for some way that they could get him, kill him, right? Have him arrested and killed.
And they remembered the day before.
But was it? If what he did in the temple was so bad, why didn't they bring charges on him then? What he did, they accepted, because they understood that what he did was cleanse the temple. He was getting these people, these merchants, out of the temple. That was truly a what do you want to say? Something bad against the church. What is that called?
Heresy.
A heresy. Or a derogatory. I mean, they were basically making money off of people coming to worship God.
Simony.
Yeah. Simony, yeah.
It's not simony, but yeah.
So so that's the point that I wanted to make from this, that they didn't think what Jesus did when he cleansed the temple was a bad thing. They probably applauded him for it. But here, they're still looking for, he's still teaching, they're allowing him to teach, and he's teaching the people. And another thing that jumped out at me, who are the people that are coming to Jesus? Chief priests, the scribes. Those are the ones that are like the literary people that write down the stuff.
The elders.
And the elders.
The learned.
The learned people and the religious leaders. They come to him and they ask him about his authority. And of course we know, where does he get his authority? From God, of course.
Well, yeah.
But so he turns it around on them. And he says, sorry, my thoughts are running right now.
He says, well, John the Baptist.
Yeah, John the Baptist. Tell me, by whose authority did he baptize? Was it by heaven, or was it from the people, human origin?
And for the Pharisees, there was no right answer.
Yeah, they're saying, well, if we say this, then he say, well, why didn't you believe him? Instead, you let him be killed. If I say by human, then the people think he's a prophet, or he was a prophet, and they're gonna attack us and stone us. So either way, we can't say, because if we say one way, then Jesus will go, aha, so you were wrong. If we say it another way, the way that we want to say it, then the people will attack us. So we're just not going to answer. Oh, yeah. We don't know. And Jesus says,
play it safe.
Yeah. So Jesus says, neither will I, because that's what they really said was, we're not going to tell you what we believe. And so Jesus says, repeats the answer to them. What do you think about this? What's something that comes out at you?
Good logic, smart people. They know what would happen if they say the wrong answer.
Yeah, but this is stepping into a little bit of my sermon here. But yet, they have to look good in front of the people, so they're not going to say one thing, and they're not going to say the other, because then Jesus would do the, aha, I got you, and they would look bad. So they're trying to save face by saying we don't know.
Well, yeah. And we do the same thing often.
Often, yeah, sure.
Are you a Christian? Of course I'm a Christian. What's that mean? Well, let's talk about something else.
Yeah, because there's so many flavors of Christians. I like to call them flavors, not denominations. Okay, so let's move on to the parable of the wicked tenants.
I think flavor is a better word.
What's that?
I think flavors is a better word.
The parable of the wicked tenants. Then he began to teach a parable. A man planted a vineyard and leased it to the tenants, and then he went to another country for a long time. When the season had come, he sent a slave to the tenants to order that they might give him the share of the produce of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Then he sent another slave that also they beat and insulted and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent still a third. This one also was wounded and thrown out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, what shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him. But when the tenants saw him, they discussed it amongst themselves, and they said, this is the heir. Let us kill him so that the inheritance may be ours. So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When they heard this, they said, heaven forbid. But he looked at them and said, what then does this text mean? The stone that the builders rejected has become a cornerstone. Everyone who falls on the same stone will be broken to pieces, and it will be crushed anyone whom it falls. When the scribes and the chief priests realized that he had told this parable against them, they wanted to lay their hands on him at that hour, at that very hour, but they feared the people. Still fearing the people, right? Okay. So that is a quote from the Old Testament passage. Do you have a footnote there, Bill, about the stone that the builders rejected?
I don't have a footnote on it, but that is what Jesus is going to be.
Yeah, that's what, and he's quoting from Old Testament prophecy there. Okay, so once again, this is a parable, but this parable is you can see how Luke has set it up. This parable is in relation to what they've been doing, what they've been talking about before this, about the authority and everything. And
you see, he's talking about what the people are going to do, I think, to Jesus. What's going to happen to Jesus. That's what the story's about. And they're not getting it.
No, of course not.
But Luke is recording it because Jesus said it, and so they should have gotten it.
So who are the tenants in this story?
People.
No, not just people.
Well, it's everybody, isn't it?
The religious leaders at that time.
That's who he's talking to, but I think it's a message to everybody, isn't it?
But it's if you look at what's going on, he's having this battle between the religious leaders and himself, and so he tells this parable, and it gets down right to it. And in the end, there it says that when they had realized that he had told this parable against them, I think it's talking. He's trying to say.
It's directed at the priests.
Yeah.
It's directed at them. Yeah.
I think he's saying that here you've been given this authority to take and do good things with these people, and yet you're squandering it. And then when we sent the prophets, those are the servants, the slaves that come to say, hey, give back to God, and they beat them and throw them out. So they sends 3 prophets, and 3 prophets go out. And then they send the Son of Man, his own son, Jesus, right? And they want to kill him. And they kill him and they throw him out. And now we will inherit. Does that sound anything familiar to you? That idea? What are they trying to do? What are they trying when they reject the prophets and when they reject the Son of God? What are they really rejecting?
Reject God.
God, exactly. If we kill his heir, the Son of God, then we will become the heirs. In other words, we will become the gods of our own.
They thought.
Yeah. So you can see that this is definitely a story against them. And I love the part at the end there. It says, he will come and destroy them, those tenants, and give the vineyard to others. Wow. Isn't that exactly what happened? I mean, you think of history and how not long after Jesus was killed and crucified, Jerusalem fell. And they tore down the temple, completely destroyed the temple, and scattered the Jews everywhere. And who
40 years
who came after that? Who was, quote unquote, the representatives of God? It was the Christians.
Well, the Christian guy, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's an interesting parable, and yeah. Once again, at the end there, but they feared the people. They wanted to kill Jesus right then and there, but they feared the people. Got to keep their reputation, right? Okay, so once again they try to catch him and snare him in a trap, right? So the question of paying taxes. So they watched him, and they sent spies who pretended to be honest in order to trap him by what he said, so as to hand him over to the jurisdiction and authority of the governor. So they asked him, "Teacher, we know you are right and what you say and teach, and show difference to no one, but teach the way of God in accordance with truth. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" But he perceived their craftiness and said to them, "Show me a denarius. Whose head, whose picture, and title does it bear?" They said, "The emperor's." He said to them, "Then give to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." And they were not able to, in the presence of the people, to trap him by what he said. And being amazed by this, they became silent. Isn't that something?
Well,
Now, what was their question designed to do?
to say that he was, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You said, no, you don't give Caesar anything. Keep it. He doesn't deserve it. Then Caesar will come down.
Yeah, the Roman,
Wipe 'em
the
out.
Roman, they would just run right to the soldiers and said, "Hey, you need to arrest this guy. He's telling people not to pay taxes."
It
And
would
they
be
would.
treason.
Yeah, he's been treason to the Roman Empire. But what if he would have said? What if he said, "Yes, pay taxes"? I mean, that's kind of what he said, but he said it in a way that was didn't put him in a trap. If he'd have said, "Yes, you need to pay the taxes because the Roman government is over top of us," what would the people have done?
Got upset with him over that.
Oh, they would have been very upset. And remember, this is what the other leaders, the religious leaders, are afraid of. They're afraid of the people.
If the money went to Romans,
Yeah, he was a traitor to them. He was a traitor to the Jews. He couldn't be the Messiah. Because remember what the Messiah was supposed to be?
He's supposed to be a warrior.
A military leader. He's going to lead the people of Israel to become a world power. They're going to throw out the Romans, and they're going to be like the Romans, a world power. That's their
concept.
idea or concept of what the Messiah is supposed to be like. Now, the Messiah is saying, "Yeah, you should pay taxes to these people." You traitor, you can't be the Messiah. You see that? So he says, "Hey, show me what we're paying taxes with." Oh, here's the denarius. Okay. Who's that? Oh, that's emperor. Okay. And what's his symbol? What's his words down here? Well, that's his inscription. So that belongs to him. Give it back to him. Let him have that. But give to God what is God's. Wow, he just drew the people right back in. And I love the end of it. I love the end. They became silent. Okay, I think this is the first time that the phrase, "Well, shut my mouth," was ever used. They became silent. Shut my mouth. What could you say to that logic? Isn't that amazing? Yeah,
It's clever.
it is very clever.
What university did he go to?
God's university. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to bring in the Sadducees. Okay, so the question about the resurrection. Some Sadducees who say that there is no resurrection. Okay, you all know that, right? The Sadducees
Didn't
and the
believe in the
Pharisees.
resurrection.
The Pharisees believed there was a resurrection. The Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection. And how you remember that? They were sad, you see.
Oh, well, that's, yeah.
Because they didn't believe in the resurrection. Okay. So they came to him and asked him a question. "Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, leaves a wife with no children, a man shall marry the widow and raise up his children for his brother. Now there are 7 brothers. The first married and died childless. Then the second and the third married her. And so, in the same way, all 7 died childless. Finally, the woman dies. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife will she be? For the 7 had married her. Jesus said to them, those who belong to this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of a place in that age, the age of resurrection, and in the resurrection from the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage. Indeed, they cannot die anymore, because they are like angels and are children of God, being children of the resurrection. And the fact that the dead are raised, Moses himself showed in the story about the burning bush, where he speaks to the Lord as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Now he is God not of the dead, but of the living. For him all of them are alive. Then some of the scribes answered, Teacher, you have spoken well. For they no longer dared to ask him another question. Okay. So, what's going on in this story? Who are the Sadducees? They don't believe in the resurrection.
They're political church leaders.
Yeah. They're like the Pharisees, only they're a different flavor.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're asking a question about what?
Life after death.
Okay, the resurrection, life after death. Do they believe in life after death?
They don't know.
They don't. They don't believe it. They don't believe in angels. They don't believe any of that. They're pretty much, what you see is what you get, and when you die, you're dead. That's their kind of philosophy. And so why are they asking a question like this?
Well, Jesus is saying all the people that died are alive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And they don't believe that.
No, they don't.
Why don't they say to him that that's not true?
Because they're asking a question that they know nothing about and they don't believe in. So that would be like one of our reporters, if you will, who's maybe a communist newspaper, yes, from a communist newspaper, asked one of our political leaders a question about democracy, and they know nothing about the democracy that we have, but yet they're going to ask you that question in a way that is meant to trip you up, right? This question is absurd. 7 brothers, and they all die childless with the same woman. That's a little far-fetched. I mean, it goes pretty far. Mm-hmm. But they're making it ridiculous so that when he answers this in the way that it should be, it makes it sound like he's ridiculous. Does that make sense? What do you think?
He's also quoting from, he's quoting characters that are part of the Septuagint Bible.
Yeah, in the Old
and
Testament.
their Bible. They're he's saying, look, these guys aren't dead.
Mm-hmm. When Moses talked about these people, he doesn't say was the God of Jacob, was the God of, but now they're dead. He says he is the God. That means that they are still alive in God. Does that make sense? And this idea of marriage, wow, that's something, isn't it? There won't be any marriage. And I don't want to get into it too much, but if we look at the way women were treated, women were property. And so your marriage was basically them saying, this woman now belongs to this man.
Chattel.
Huh? Yeah, and so this concept of marriage is not an idea of just two people like we have today, where two people come together and they're married and they share a life, but rather that's his property back then. And so basically what they're saying, whose property is she when we get to the rest? And he's saying there's going to come a time when this giving and taking in marriage is not going to be like that. It's not going to, women are going to, you know, I mean, we're reading into this backwards, but it's still a condemnation on this idea of what a marriage used to be. And now it's not going to be that way in the time of the resurrection.
Well, the marriage no longer exists.
Yeah. Why? Because each person is their own person. And you're not, you know, and look at it today. I mean, women have come a long way in just the past 100 years to be their own person. I mean, in the 50s, a woman couldn't have her own bank account.
In culture.
Yeah.
In culture, I know that the women didn't feel that way.
Oh, yeah, no. But you see now, women are not even getting married because they're their own person. They're running their own job. Okay, so I don't want to beat that one to death. But I did want to talk to this one little phrase here. Where is the phrase? The phrase is, indeed, they cannot die anymore because they are like the angels and the children of God. And he said that they are never given or... And so some people have taken that to mean that the angels are asexual. They don't have any, actually, asexual. They are without sex. They're neither male or female. And so they point to this and say, see, that's that. But that isn't the truth. Because we see in the Old Testament that the angels came down to earth and had relationships with women. That's the one that we were talking about, the offspring,
according to legend,
men of renown. So this idea of angels not having a gender, male or female, is not this is a terrible proof text for that.
Or that whole story of the angels coming down and having sex with it's bull.
So once again, that's an Old Testament legend that was probably one of the things that I was talking about earlier that leaked in. That legend kind of leaked into the Bible. What is it doing here?
Well, it could be the angels coming down and having sex and creating evil people on the earth. Could be an explanation of ancient history.
Well, also, what's it come up to?
Before the flood history.
Exactly, and that's what they say. That's what a lot of people say. That's why God had to have the flood, because he was trying to get rid of these half angel, half human people. So the question about David's son. Okay. Then he said to them, how can they say that the Messiah is David's son? For David himself says in the book of Psalms, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. David calls him Lord, so how can he be his son? Does that make sense? What it's saying here is the Messiah is supposed to be a son of David, great-grandson. When you say the son back then, it could be your grandson, it could be great-grandson, but it's a son of David. Do you see that? But yet, the Messiah is coming, and David says that my Lord when he's talking about his son. So how can he be his Lord if he's his son? It's a little confusing for us today because of the fact that it's in our culture we don't think that way. We think of the Father as being the top, and then the Son, and then goes down like this.
We think of grandfathers. So that's the way he's thinking.
But down here is the Messiah.
But
So how is this his Lord? Someone that's on top.
the Messiah has an earthly life where he is man walking on earth,
Mm-hmm.
so that he can feel everything that we feel, and he also has a genealogical life, right, with God. He's the Son of God, so he's a split personality, all right, and that's what I think that's talking about, the split personality.
Yeah. I just totally, you just had a brain fart there. Two, I call it personalities. I can't think of the word they use now, but anyway, it was a big debate, and that's why they have to say two persons in one.
Two in one.
Jesus was God, but yet he was human. He was fully God and he was fully human. So, okay, so basically he's calling them out and saying, you don't think of these things. And today I do this to people. I'm not like saying I'm like Jesus, but I do this with people when they start throwing out Christ talk, and they say things, are you saved? Are you this? Or do you have faith? Well, do I have faith in what? Am I saved? What am I saved? How what do you mean by being saved? And they don't think about this. And here this is. They just repeat this stuff and not totally think about it. It's just what we say because we're the Jewish people and we're God's chosen, and this is what we say when we talk about the Messiah and the Christ, or the Christ. So Jesus calls them out. I like that. So, okay. The last little story here. In the hearing of all the people, he said to the disciples, did you catch that? He's talking to his disciples, but he's talking
a loud voice.
He's talking in a loud voice, so those people right over there that are watching can hear. Okay. So, beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and to have the best seats in the synagogues and place of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for the sake of appearance say long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation. Wow. This is a verse that I haven't done it, but I really respect this verse. I should probably take it and put it on the wall in my study. Just to keep me humble. You know what I'm saying? I'm not into this for the honor, the special places, the special privileges. I'm in this to help everyone draw closer to God. And they will receive the greater condemnation. Because why? Because they're given this task of doing this, drawing people closer to God, and yet they do what I like to call the American thing.
Yeah.
What has two thumbs and is the greatest thing.
I mean, they can't marry for money.
Okay.
Why would you marry for money?
Oh, I said, is he saying you can't marry for money?
I would say that would be kind of disrespectful for the person you married, but that
Well,
was
no, but I
something.
mean, isn't that what Christ is saying?
I wouldn't say so much that. I think he's pointing the finger once again at the scribes, the religious leaders, and saying you're using your position for selfish gains. Does that make sense? You agree?
They're walking around because they think they're important and they should be recognized that they are important.
Yes.
That means that they are putting themselves before God.
Oh yes. Most
And
definitely.
so
That's I had this hard time coming to grips with actually wearing a collar because I didn't want people to look at me and say, "Oh," and I get it all the time. I'll be walking in a store and I'll have my liturgical shirt on and my cleric shirt on, and they'll say, "Oh, how you doing, Father?" Or and they trying to give me an honor, but and that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm wearing it for. I'm hoping I'm wearing it with a little of my flair, my glasses, and for them to look at me and go, what's he all about? And hopefully they'll come up and ask me. But at that point, I'm using what I have, my position, to steer them more towards God.
And Jesus be happy with that.
I think so.
Yeah.
But using it for like they were using it.
Which they wanted to be at the banquet in the right seat and all the rest.
Oh, exactly.
Well, I must admit, when the Archbishop comes to my table, we give him the
exactly. Well, and the current Pope, he didn't want all that stuff.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't want his own apartment. He didn't want all this. He didn't want to drive around in the Pope mobile. He wanted to take public transit. He said, "You can't do that now that you're the Pope." But I think Christ would have been happy with him the way he handled that. Okay, so next week we'll be at chapter 21. We're getting close.
Okay.
How many chapters are there?
34.
34?
I don't know.
Not 34.
I got 1 page, 2 page.
Did you ever see the picture of the Pope getting out of a Fiat?
No.
Tiny little car. Somewhere's in Rome he did that. It's quite a hoot.
Well, thanks everybody.
24.
Yeah, 24.
Or just left.